Want to add a little fire or some power to your next ritual? Try a little bit of this. Stay tuned, let's talk about it. Hi everybody, welcome back to another video by Plant Society. I'm Cherie, and today I want to talk about this guy. This is ginger root. While not technically a root, it's a rhizome. We'll talk more about that later. So ginger is ruled by the planet Mars. It's a masculine plant, and its energetic is fire. And we'll talk about that right now, because if you ingest this, it warms you up from the inside. So that trait actually helps if you're doing a ritual and you want a little oomph to your ritual or to your meditation or even your journey. You would chew a little bit, and when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit, because when you're chewing it raw, especially if you're not used to it, it warms you up quickly, and sometimes it might be too hot in the mouth. So if you're new to it, just start off very small, and then eventually when you get used to it and you know where your limits are, you can increase the size that you're ingesting or chewing while you're doing it. So you can chew it ahead of time before your ritual, or you can be chewing it the whole time during your ritual. It's typically used in spells or rituals for love, success, power. The love part is because this is a libido activator. So say you're having a fancy dinner or a romantic dinner. If you have ginger in your food, it helps warm the body up and get it going, especially for women. If you want this for money, typically it's grown for money. So having the ginger plants around your house, or an entrance preferably, the more you have, the more abundance you're trying to attract. Medicinally, this plant, or this rhizome, is pretty freaking amazing. It has natural antibacterial and antiviral properties. So this is why it's used in medicines like elderberry syrup. If you know that you have a cold coming on, you could drink this in a tea. You'll always hear like lemon ginger tea, something like that. For me, if I'm traveling, like we have so much ginger all the time around the house, just for the fact that I do it all the time. Because I want to keep my immune system up. If I'm traveling especially, what you're going to do is you're going to slice some of it, because the more flesh that you expose to the water, the more you'll get out of it. And I always put some in like a carrying cup, and then when I get past TSA, I'll fill it up at a water fountain or whatever, and sip that on the plane, because I don't want to get all the germs and whatever else are floating around. So this is definitely great to have around for immune boosters, great for winter times, and then once again, medicinally, this can charge up the libido if you need to. Growing this is extremely easy if you live in warm places. If you live in cooler places, you can still do this in a pot, and I'll explain that in a second. So when you grow this, you're going to buy one of these as fresh as possible from the grocery store, and you're going to let it sit on the counter. So this one's kind of a little mangy looking down here, because I break it off as I use it, but if I don't use it fast enough, it grows these little nodules, and this is where the plant comes out. I don't know if you can see this. And so what'll happen is you can break those parts off, not the little bud, but the whole rhizome itself, like this part, and bury it. So what'll happen is a stalk of plant will come out of here, 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 and it looks like there's one starting here. So if you plant it in a place, you got to give it room to grow, because this being a rhizome, this gets bigger and spreads out and grows long and just travels under the earth for a good distance, and then every now and then it will shoot more of these stalks up. So under the ground, you won't know what's happening. You won't know what size this is getting until you're ready to harvest later on in the year. But above the ground, you'll get these pretty green stalks that have these beautiful beautiful red flowers on them that you can actually use on your altars and stuff, because once again, it's that fiery element. And Also, I will say the amount of stalks that you get is not indicative of how big your rhizome is going to get. Sometimes they will surprise you. Sometimes you'll get so many stalks and have the tiniest rhizome. Sometimes you'll get no stalks. Well, I won't say no. You'll get like a couple of stalks and the rhizome will be huge for some reason. So, you know, don't despair. And then every time, because I buy so much ginger, I always keep planting these once it starts doing this, and you'll just keep having tons and tons. If you can't do it straight into the ground where you live, you absolutely can grow this in a pot. Just make sure it's a pot that is big enough to allow for this to, you know, grow a little bit. So make sure it's a bigger pot than, because usually when people tell you to pot things up, it's like 2 inches bigger than the ball or the root ball. For this one, as big as you can fit, because then the space that you give it is the space it will fill mostly, and you'll have a bigger rhizome to harvest. When you harvest these, my first thing is always try it fresh. Fresh for rituals, fresh for eating, fresh for teas. But you can dry this if you need to save some. You can also freeze it. Now when you freeze it, it changes its texture, so it's not going to be good medicinally, but it's one of those things you could just toss in a soup, because it's not, the flesh of it's going to be soft. Not one of my favorite methods, but I've done it in the past when I've had tons, like way too much ginger to dry and use up, so it can be done. But I will say, if you've never tried this, give it a try. Like, you'll find it predominantly in every grocery store now, I think. And it's an amazing plant to get to know, amazing plant to have. And you know, if you don't like it the first time or second time, it took me a while to come around to loving it, and now I love it and always have it in my life. If you have any ginger recipes or uses for it in your rituals or whatever, comment down below. Let us know what you're using it for. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time in another pan video.